Have you ever wondered how a sudden shift in power can change the course of a nation's history? Let's rewind to December 1999, a period that witnessed one such momentous shift in Russia. A surprise announcement echoed throughout the country and the world. Boris Yeltsin, the then president of Russia, decided to step down, leaving the reins of the country in the hands of a relatively unknown figure, Vladimir Putin. Yeltsin's unexpected resignation was a bolt from the blue. Just as the world was preparing to usher in a new millennium, Russia found itself bracing for a new era of leadership. The transition wasn't smooth or planned, but rather abrupt, shaking the political landscape of the nation. So, how did this unexpected transition come about? Yeltsin, who had been grappling with health issues and political scandals, decided it was time to pass the baton. He chose the last day of the 20th century to make his exit, leaving the country and the world in a state of surprise. His decision was not just sudden, but also unprecedented, as it was the first time in the history of Russia that a president had voluntarily resigned. The reactions to this unexpected change were mixed. Within Russia, there was a sense of uncertainty, a feeling of stepping into the unknown. Internationally, there was curiosity about the new acting president, Vladimir Putin. Who was he? What did he stand for? What would his leadership mean for Russia and its relationship with the world? Putin, who had been serving as prime minister under Yeltsin, was relatively unknown on the global stage. His rise to power was not just unexpected, but also intriguing, marking a new chapter in Russia's political narrative. As the world watched, Vladimir Putin, a relatively unknown figure, stepped into the role that would shape Russia and its global standing for decades to come. To comprehend the significance of this shift, we need to delve into the timeline of events leading up to and following Yeltsin's resignation. The late 90s were a challenging time for Russia. President Boris Yeltsin, once a symbol of a new democratic Russia, was grappling with declining health and waning popularity. His presidency was marked by economic turmoil, political instability, and rampant corruption. These factors led to a significant decrease in his approval ratings, leaving many Russians yearning for change. In August of 1999, Yeltsin made a move that would drastically alter the course of Russian history. He appointed Vladimir Putin, a relatively unknown figure outside of political circles, as prime minister. This appointment was met with surprise, yet it was the first step in a chain of events that would lead to Putin's ascendancy. Fast forward to New Year's Eve, 1999. In a move that shocked the world, Yeltsin announced his resignation. He declared Putin as the acting president of Russia, a move that effectively thrust him into the driver's seat of the world's largest country. In his initial days as acting president, Putin made a series of promises. He pledged to uphold the Constitution and to continue the path of economic and political reform. These promises were received with a mix of optimism and skepticism, as the world watched closely to see how he would navigate his new role. The early signs of Putin's leadership style became evident fairly quickly. He displayed a knack for consolidating power, an ability to rally public support, and a willingness to take decisive action. His popularity surged, and his grip on the Russian political landscape tightened. In March of 2000, Putin's position was solidified when he was officially elected as president. This election marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new one. Putin's rise to power was swift, and his impact on the country was immediate. In less than a year, Putin had gone from a relative unknown to the leader of one of the world's most powerful nations. With the reins of power firmly in his hands, Putin began to shape Russia in his image. The initial years of his presidency were filled with turbulence and decisive action. The Chechen conflict, which had been smoldering since the mid-90s, escalated into full-blown warfare. Putin's response was swift and unyielding, demonstrating to his country and the world his commitment to maintaining Russia's territorial integrity. Under Putin's leadership, Russia's power structure underwent a significant transformation. He moved to centralized power, reducing the autonomy of the regional governors and increasing the Kremlin's control. This consolidation of power was not without controversy, yet it resulted in a more unified and stable Russia, at least on the surface. But Putin's influence extended beyond the realm of politics. he also made his mark on the Russian economy. Through a series of reforms, he managed to stabilize the ruble and foster economic growth. Despite facing international criticism for his handling of the war in Ukraine and his crackdown on opposition, his economic policies garnered him widespread support at home. In the sphere of foreign relations, Putin proved to be a skilled, albeit hard-nosed negotiator. He was not afraid to challenge Western influence, and he worked tirelessly to re-establish Russia's position on the global stage. This assertiveness, coupled with his ability to mobilize domestic support, helped Putin secure his grip on power. Despite facing criticism and even rumors of ill health, Putin showed little sign of slowing down. He announced his candidacy for the Russian presidential election in 2023, a move that is expected to extend his rule over 2 decades. Putin, already the longest-serving Kremlin leader since Joseph Stalin, used his influence to amend the constitution twice, allowing him to potentially stay in power until his mid-80s. Putin's actions during this period laid the groundwork for his long tenure as Russia's leader. Now, let's examine the profound impact Putin has had on Russia since his rise to power. His influence has been felt across all aspects of Russian society, from politics to the economy to the country's international standing. In politics, Putin has been a dominant figure. He's consolidated power by suppressing opposition, amending the constitution, and maintaining high approval ratings. His critics argue that he's undermined democracy, stifled free speech, and quashed dissent, but his supporters see him as a strong leader who has brought stability to Russia. Economically, Putin has overseen a period of growth driven by high oil prices, but also marred by recession and sanctions. He's pursued a policy of state-controlled capitalism, with the government playing a key role in strategic sectors. This approach has led to a resurgence of state-owned enterprises, from energy to banking. Yet, economic inequality has grown, and many Russians still live in poverty. On the international stage, Putin has projected an image of strength and defiance. He's pushed back against what he sees as Western encroachment on Russia's sphere of influence, most notably with his actions in Ukraine. He's also sought to build alliances with other countries that resist Western influence, like China and Iran. But Putin's foreign policy has been controversial. His annexation of Crimea in 2014 was widely condemned, leading to a wave of sanctions that have hurt the Russian economy. His intervention in Syria has propped up a brutal regime, but also reasserted Russia's role in the Middle East. And his support for separatists in eastern Ukraine has led to a protracted and bloody conflict. Yet despite these challenges, Putin shows no sign of slowing down. He's announced his candidacy for another term, which could extend his rule into his mid-80s. This is a testament to his political skill, but also raises questions about the future of Russia. The case of Anatoly Chubais, a senior Kremlin official who resigned and left the country, suggests that Putin's grip on power is not unchallenged. But it's unclear whether this signals a broader discontent within the Russian elite or is just an isolated incident. From an unknown figure to a leader who has shaped Russia for over 2 decades, Putin's rise and continued rule have left an indelible mark on the country and its place in the world.